This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Welcome to Covered in Pet Hair, a bougie show for pet lovers on Pet Life Radio. I'm your host, Isabel Alvarez-Arata, and today I have the pleasure of having a drink and a chat with a guy who wants to feed them all. I will tell you all about him and introduce you as soon as we come back from these messages from our sponsors.
Take a bite out of your competition. Advertise your business with an ad in Pet Life Radio podcasts and radio shows. There is no other pet-related media that is as large and reaches more pet parents and pet lovers than Pet Life Radio. With over 7 million monthly listeners, Pet Life Radio podcasts are available on all major podcast platforms, and our live radio stream goes out to over 250 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, Odyssey, TuneIn, Stitcher, and other streaming apps. For more information on how you can advertise on the #1 pet podcast and radio network, visit PetLifeRadio.com/advertise today.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back to Covered in Pet Hair. I'm your host, Isabel Alvarez-Arata, and today I have the pleasure of having a drink and a chat with a pet parent, a doctor. He's a published author of a book called Man the F Up. He is a former competitive bodybuilder, creator of over 400 fitness videos. He's a visionary, an inventor, an entrepreneur, obviously a fitness fanatic. I mean, who makes 400 videos about fitness if they don't love fitness? He was born and raised in Connecticut. He shares his life with his longtime girlfriend, attorney Denise Lillo Vecchio, their puggle, and he used to share his life with the late Fozzie, who inspired him to do what we're talking about today. He is Dr. Mike Dusa, and he is the man that is on a mission to feed them all with a company he calls the Fozzie Company. Welcome, Mike. It's so good to have you on the show.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, I am super excited to learn about you, learn about Fozzie, learn about what you're trying to do here. It is such an important topic that we're going to cover today. Rescues and how badly they need our help. But before we go into the nitty-gritty, I want to introduce our drinking game today. So anybody participating in our drinking game at home, we won't know what the word is, but anytime you hear this word,
The secret word is help.
make sure you take a drink of whatever you're enjoying, but please be over 21 in the US to partake. Never drink and drive, and always drink responsibly. So it is a weekday and it is not that late. So what are you having today, Mike? What is on your agenda for this afternoon?
As far as drinking?
Yes.
Diet Coke.
Diet Coke. So you see, I cleared my agenda and I'm having a boozy latte. This has rum chata in it. It's delicious. And I've had a very difficult start to 2023 and I feel like I earned this. So cheers. Here's to your Diet Coke and my boozy afternoon drink.
Drink up.
Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody.
Say nothing.
All right. Well, I always start this show with a game. And because I don't really know you, we've not really crossed paths before. This is the first time we're chatting. I'm going to invite you to play a game I called Curious Kitty. And these are some cards that I'm going to pick at random, and I'm just going to get to know you. Are you ready to play?
I am.
These are cards that are used in elementary schools, I think. So they're very easy, but I think we can have a little fun with them. All right, here we go. If you could time travel, where would you go?
Early 1900s.
Why?
Fitness was physical culture that back then, and people actually did it for their health as opposed to just getting really big, because I wasn't a very good or big bodybuilder, so I probably would have done much better back then.
Interesting. I like that. That's pretty interesting. Okay, describe the best party you've ever attended.
You know, not big on parties. I was better as a bouncer because I worked in bars and I had, I was there kind of having fun getting paid. So I'd have to say over time, other than that, no, I'm the guy who stays home.
I love that so much. I feel like that about fitness. I was a fitness instructor, and the only time you really could get me into a gym was when I was being paid to teach a class.
Yeah.
So I get it. I need to start getting paid to work out again because I'm getting very, very sedentary these days. All right. Which movie character inspires you and why?
Oh, I'd have to say Stallone.
Ooh, I see the resemblance.
Yeah, well, a guy who not very big but very muscular, because I'm probably the best mediocre bodybuilder ever, which is kind of a compliment but kind of not. So back when I competed, I did well because you could win a contest at 180 pounds. Now you got to be 280. So Stallone, kind of 180-ish and, compact and can still look good in the suit. Can't speak very well according to some people, but I understand him. So
I met him when I was a little kid, actually. You remember the movie? Oh my gosh, what is it called? I can't remember now, but it was shot in a Catholic church.
Wait, you're talking about a Stallone movie?
Yes. There was a scene in a Catholic church where there's like a gun and there's like a gun in a garter situation with James Woods and Sharon Stone. I don't remember the name, but I met him because I went to school next door of that church. That was my church. Oh. And so after school, we all went over it, and he was so nice. So very nice. They were the whole cast of that movie. Everybody was very nice.
When we had the testosterone boosting company, the end goal was to get him in a video. And I was probably 6 steps away, which is kind of close, but of course that with COVID, the gym's closed. So right now, I'm not saying it's done, but it's kind of on standby right now. But I'll get him.
That's awesome. I wish you luck because he seemed like a really cool guy. All right. Last question. How does your family celebrate birthdays?
Since my mother passed away 2 years ago, closest person to me on this planet, she was very big on birthdays. We don't anymore because it's just so sad. My holy trinity was my mother, my dog, and my dear Denise. And now I'm just down to Denise.
Well, we are going to envelop Denise in a cloud of health and good fortune and wish her the longest life ever, because I can't bear to see any more of your Trinity not be here. My goodness, I'm so sorry for your losses.
I'm sorry that's not a happy thing, but first chapter in my book is titled Stop Lying. So I don't lie ever.
I love it. I love it. I love real. I don't want you to give me some BS answer. I love real. I just lost my soul dog of 15 and a half years last week. And I'm in like this weird grief place right now where I almost feel like it's not real. So I totally understand how much loss affects us and everything that we do, including how we celebrate birthdays. So I'm so sorry for your losses. Like really, truly, I am.
Mine, yours.
Thank you so much. Well, I want to get to know you because the more I learn about you, the more I think you're quite the visionary. And I've always been a really big fan of chiropractic. And you were a chiropractor for a very long time. You had your own practice, and for health reasons, you had to kind of retire from that work. So I'm curious, when you decided to go into chiropractic, it wasn't as popular as it is today. And still today, most people don't even take advantage of the benefits of chiropractic. So how did you get into that field?
I'll give it to you quickly. When I was 15, I was getting really heavily into bodybuilding. My grades started to slip. So I remember my mother telling me, my father too, no gym unless the grades go up. So my mother said, listen, look at Arnold Schwarzenegger's best friend, Franco Columbo. He didn't even speak English, came here, won Mr. Universe, became a chiropractor. So if he could do it with no English, you could do it too. So I went into it because I figured I could keep lifting. I ended up gravitating towards it anyhow. It was the wrong reason, but it turned out to be good. So that's how I chose it. And yeah, bodybuilding and chiropractic in the 70s when I was a teenager, so unpopular that I wouldn't tell anybody I lifted weights until it looked like it. And that took about 10 years. It took a long time. But I helped a lot of people through chiropractic. I helped thousands and thousands of people. So that's what makes me feel the most warmth looking back on it all,
Absolutely. I discovered chiropractic during my first pregnancy. I had a horrible pregnancy, and the only thing that gave me relief physically was the many visits a week I made to the chiropractor. So I'm a huge fan. I want to know what exactly you think of chiropractic for pets. Like, I don't know any chiropractors for pets, but I know that it exists. What are your thoughts on that?
One of my students, I taught university, the pre-chiropractic department at the university here some years ago. My best student ended up practicing in California. It's legal out there. I think it might be legal now here in Connecticut. It wasn't back then. So it wasn't quite proliferative where I could be very well versed in its tenets and explain it to you. But I do know that he helped, particularly horses. He had to get on top and climb a ladder and use blocks and jump on them to readjust and realign vertebrae. And the bottom line is, I could say this: if there's a problem, some type of pain, obviously your body is telling you there's something wrong, we remove the stimulus that causes the pain. So if you can do that through the mode of chiropractic without surgery or drugs, that's good. But sometimes it doesn't work, so you go with the surgery or the drugs. So whatever is most expedient, most beneficial to whoever the recipient is, in this case, pets and animals, yeah, it can help. And I say help because very little cures. Your body has to cure itself. We help it along,
Agreed. I find that chiropractic, if I had the opportunity, I would have taken Titan, who just passed away, because he was 15 and a half, but in his, last 2 years of life, he had arthritis and he had, what I think is pain and stiffness and all those things that I think we did laser, we did acupuncture, and I wish I had the option to also do chiropractic.
Yeah, I had a laser in my practice. I actually got laser on my shoulder today by Dr. Bruce Calderon. I'll give him a little shout out. He's the guy I go to. So yeah, again, there's always new things. You got to keep your mind open to everything, and make sure you're making a little bit of a positive difference wherever you go.
I love that. Well, actually, speaking of doing a little good, I would love to learn more about the Fozzie Company. How did it come to be? And what is it that you all do to feed them all?
Yeah, it's really, we're empowering people. We have to sell items and goods and apparel. I designed it all myself. I draw up all the designs myself. There's other hard items coming as well that I can't really mention because there's trademark deals and stuff like that. But yeah, we're doing that because we have to generate a lot of it. In the words of Martin Luther King, he said, it's wonderful to do good things. Without money, it's very hard. So we do that, but really we're empowering the people, the members, and if you want to call them customers, I don't really like that word because to me, they're more than that. We're empowering them to have impact, and they're really buying into or buying the mission to feed them all. And they directly help these little poor souls who are struggling even as we speak. And that I can't let that stand.
Yes, absolutely. So show me your shirt. That is one of your designs, right?
Yeah, that's it right there. Fozzie Company. And, I walk around, I wear them every day almost. People say, hey, Fozzie. And someone said, I love that band. I go, you love that band? There's a band called Fozzie.
That's so funny.
Which I thought was kind of funny. But even the name Fozzie, you got to smile when you say it. The way that the doodle came about, for Denise, every morning I do a little doodle before I leave. And usually it's kind of a joke or, whatever it might be. But one day I kind of captured Fozzie. I came home and she put it on the refrigerator and said, hey, that's really Fozzie. And she was right. So a friend of mine down in Florida who's an art teacher, and he's with Disney and he does a lot of high level stuff. I sent it to him. I said, make it look a little bit more like a dog, just so people know. And he cleaned it up, and people really seem to gravitate towards it and like it. And it's the brand, it's the Fozzie brand.
I love the concept. I love that people love to wear shirts like, graphic t-shirts and graphic hat. I know you make hats too. Yeah. And I know that we like to wear things that reflect our priorities. So when somebody wears the Fozzie Company t-shirt, and they're first of all engaging in a conversation that's really important to have, which we're going to talk about more in the second part of the show, but also they're connecting with people about things that matter to them, right? So I'm out and about at the grocery store, somebody says, hey, what's the Fozzie Company? And I can explain to them what they do and why it's great and it looks great. But it's also a conversation that if somebody was thinking of maybe, making a donation this year, maybe I plant the seed to make a donation to an animal rescue or a shelter, as opposed to maybe people not being aware of what is really going on in the homeless pet population.
Most of the world suffers, and most of the world does without. The average person lives on $2 a day. Almost every single shelter never has enough money, food, resources, volunteers, medicine, medical implements, veterinary care, all the way across the board. They're always on the fringe. But saying it is one thing, but I try. No, I don't try. Try is a word that should not. You either do or you don't. Think about it.
Right.
You do well, you do poorly, whatever it might be. But we do whatever we can. We do whatever we can, which is always something, because it's very easy to get beaten down by the world, which is a very harsh place. But you need good people out there fueling it, and you need good things being done. And most people, despite what the media will tell you, are fundamentally good.
Mm-hmm.
They want to, but maybe we're giving them a little bit of a template to follow, just like you said. They see they see that image, and you get a little conversation going, and you lift something or someone up somewhere, and you make things a little bit better because you'll do better. I know that. That's how it works.
Absolutely. So Fozzie, your dog, obviously inspired the name of the brand. What was his breed, just so I can picture him?
Yeah, he was a cockapoo, cocker spaniel poodle. He was the best. Yeah, I got him in a shelter when he was 6, and he was half his normal weight. His hair was overgrown and matted, and he had fleas. But he wasn't dispirited. He was still very happy. He was probably abused by someone absconding the responsibilities, maybe not intentionally, but even when I got sick and I underwent 15 surgeries on my arm, we were living in hotels, and that's when I had to liquidate my practice, unfortunately, because physically I couldn't do it any longer. So he was with me all the time, everywhere I went. And, you never lose that part of you when you have something or someone, an entity that is almost anatomically your flesh, and they're with you 100%. They're always forgiving in every way. But again, he was a beaten down soul, and he was never affected by that. And he helped me so much. And even on his way out, you mentioned arthritis in your pup. That's essentially what happened. He was so overridden with being broken down, and the pain was so intractable that, it was time,
Yeah, absolutely.
20 years old.
20 years old. That is amazing. That is a testament to how well you cared for him for the 14 years that you had him. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You had a whole lifetime with him, really. It's almost like his life restarted.
The best thing about it is I get to mention his name 100 times a day based on what we do. So it's almost like he's still with me / us, and that's his work going forward. I feel that. I don't like to say I believe, because believe is for ghosts. I know that.
Yes, exactly. I agree with you. I think that their purpose doesn't end when we say goodbye, for sure. But I want to take a break right here. And when we come back, I'm going to dig in a little deeper about really what the state of affairs is in the shelter and rescue world. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Pet Life Radio, the #1 pet radio network on the planet, joins forces with iHeartRadio to put the power of your pets in your pocket. Awesome. Download the iHeartRadio app and rock Pet Life Radio on your phone, on your tablet, on your Xbox, in your car. Pet talk, pet tunes, and fun pet times. Pet Life Radio and iHeartRadio. Positively Possum.
Let's talk pets
Let's talk pets
on Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back to Covered in Pet Hair. I'm your host, Isabel Alvarez-Arata, and today I'm speaking with Dr. Mike Dusa, who is the founder of the Fozzie Company, inspired by his late Fozzie, who lived to 20 years old. He was a rescue from a shelter, and he is still living his mission through the Fozzie Company, a company that sells apparel and donates to shelters and rescues in the process. So, Mike, I want to play a game with you. It's called the Pet Adoption Crisis. And I try to keep my games fun, but sometimes we got to get into the nitty gritty and talk real talk, right? So this game is based on an article published by The Hill in 2022, in December of 2022. It was written by Daniel DeVise, and it's basically a wake-up call for all of us who are not quite aware of just how badly shelters and rescues are doing right about now. Are you ready to play with me?
I hope so.
All right. Well, if you don't know some of these, it's because some of these were also pretty much of a shock to me. The first one actually is the one that caught my attention and why I went with this article. Here we go. Dog and cat adoptions increased in 2020. True or false?
False.
You're right. Everybody was convinced that the pandemic had made it so that all these pets were adopted, but the reality is it was about the same as in 2019. Yeah. So it wasn't really this push that everybody kind of fantasized about or, romanticized. Very good. Very, very good. All right. This one, I think everybody knows the answer to. Animal rescues are consistently understaffed and workers are overwhelmed. True or false?
Oh, I know, that's always true. Yeah.
Always. Next, in the first 9 months of 2022, more animals entered shelters than left them. True or false?
The first 9 months?
Of 2022, more animals entered than they left shelters.
I would say yes, because as it gets closer to holidays, that's when people start, unfortunately, temporarily adopting them and bringing them back. But yeah.
Yes, exactly. So the margin was 7.3%. So more pets were entering the shelters than being adopted. So they were taking on more than they were rehoming or adopting out. So here's a little fact. Shelter intakes in 2022 as a whole were up 8% for dogs and 1% for cats compared to 2021. So we were surrendering more pets in 2022 than we did in 2021. Similarly to 2022, more pets were admitted than adopted in 2021. True or false?
True.
It's true. We've been on a cycle of more pets coming into shelters than leaving them for at least 3 years now. Total shelter admissions rose 6% from 2020 to 2021, and then more so in 2022. And everybody thinks that it's because we adopted all these pets in the pandemic that now we're seeing all these surrenders. But a 2021 survey by the ASPCA found that most households that acquired pets during the pandemic still had them a year later. We thought that pandemic puppies and kittens were being given up left and right, but they actually seem to still be in the homes that adopted them a year later. That is not the problem. Here we go into what the problem really is now, according to this article. People who parted with pets often cited a housing change, typically to a residence that did not allow pets, or a job change that left them unable to properly care for their animal in why they surrendered their animals. True or false?
There are other reasons. I would say true, but
so that is true. Most people who were surrendering pets in 2022 were citing the change of residence because of the pandemic. A lot of people moved back home, moved back in with family, et cetera, lost jobs. Those that were working remotely had to go back to the office, et cetera, and now they had to give up their pets. Whether or not that is right or wrong, we'll leave to another conversation, but that is...
I just have to interject, though, since we have guys right now, and women too, working in think tanks, figuring out complex things because they can, you can figure out a way. You can be like Dr. Dusa and live in hotels for many months so your dog can be with you at great expense. Because you can get the money. My dog was like my son. I guess there's extenuating circumstances.
I agree with you 100%. When I married my husband, he had 2 dogs and I had 2 dogs. And we are military. So we had to move to military, wherever the military sent us. And in all of our duty stations, thank you. In all of our military installations that we've been to, all the posts that we've been sent to, we were not able to bring our dogs. So we had to buy homes everywhere we went. And that was a huge financial challenge, especially when we left one place and went to another, and we still had to sell that old house in a place that we would never go back to. But we made the efforts, and luckily our credit scores allowed that, and our, fiscal responsibility allowed for us to do that. But we did lose money. We did lose money in specifically one sale where, we had a home empty for 6 months because we had to buy it in order to live there. And then when we moved somewhere else, it just sat empty and we had to buy in our next duty station. So I totally agree with you. I am the type that will move mountains to keep my pets. But now the pet adoption crisis is actually about people not adopting. So people maybe recognizing that they just don't have the money, maybe recognizing they don't have the time. And so we're stuck with these shelters that are at capacity or twice as many pets than they really should have in many cases. Potential adopters nowadays are worried about spiraling costs of dog food, veterinary care with, the inflation rate as high as it is. Is that true or false?
Oh, yeah, very much. True for anybody. It comes down to math. The math's got to work. And if you take that life into your household, I don't want to even call it an opinion. I state as fact that you treat that living entity just like you do yourself or your mom or your dad or your sister, your brother. And but we don't really have that, unfortunately, all the time, do we? So there should be no negotiation. But that's why I started this company, so we can ameliorate this a little bit here and there,
I agree completely. I think with education, people are recognizing that having a pet is more than just throwing some food outside and leaving them there all the time. Like, that is not what people now emulate as having a pet or want to have they want a pet that's, that they interact with on a daily basis, that shares their life with them, that even travels with them. And that's something that if you want all that, then you have to put a lot of time and effort and proper care into that. And people recognize where their limitations lie. What are you seeing? You're in Connecticut with your shelter partners. What are in that area specifically? What are the biggest challenges they're facing right now, other than the obvious, we don't have enough money?
Actually volunteer, help dependable people on a regular basis, consistent. I mean, I've had that with employees, anybody who's had, and again, I bring it back to me. I chose the wrong ones potentially. I could have been the wrong one for them. I don't know. I'm not everybody's cup, I'm pretty direct, when you work for Dr. Dusa, there are no rights, only the rights of the company. So the people that we're trying to help. Well, look, you could tie that into the shelters. The shelters, ultimately, you could talk about all the infrastructure and the lattice that surrounds it and all that, but you're really there for the little lives trying to help. So anything that gets in the way of propagating that, I would say, is a problem. And not enough people, not enough equipment. Although two of the shelters I work with here are very well moneyed and well heeled, and they really, really do things right. But you can watch how they do things. It's a little different. They're a little more, I don't want to use the word draconian, but they're a little more resolute in making sure people toe the line, do things right. You won't see as many dogs tied to the fences at these places, or animals that are adopted being returned or abused, only because from the get-go they run things in a certain way. And I'm not saying the other ones, people put in effort. People wake up no matter what, and they want to do the right thing from point
Absolutely.
A. Getting to point B, by the end of the day, they kind of take detours and do the wrong things. They don't mean to.
Right.
So we've got to try to counteract that or get around that. Make more good than bad. And that's the only way you're going to win, because you're never, ever feed them all. No, we're never going to feed them all. Not in my lifetime. I probably got like 5 minutes left. I don't know.
I hope not. Please, not here. I've had enough of the week.
Do everything you can.
It's true. And every day that passes for shelters, they're getting more requests to take in pets and less requests to adopt pets. And like you said, my business closed in the pandemic. I was living through 2,000 miles away. It didn't make sense to continue. Yeah. So I closed my business. And one thing that I'm really grateful for is not having to find employees in this environment, because I think that it's never been harder to find workers. And I can only imagine how hard it is to find volunteers in a shelter environment where it is overcrowded and underfunded and sad in many ways, because you can't save them all. I am in the South where we have kill shelters. It is what it is. And we were hoping, I think the ASPCA had said that in, the next 5 years, I think they started in 2018, that in the next 5 years, the US was going to be, kill free. But that's impossible these days because of the fact that we don't have enough shelters to keep up with demand. We don't have enough adopters to get pets. We still have people buying from unethical breeders when they could be looking at the 50% of, purebreds that are in the shelter system. So there's so many issues. But one of the main issues I find, especially in this economy, is that the economy is scaring people into giving up their pets. What are your thoughts on that? And what recommendations do you have for people who are facing that right now?
Well, going back for a second, as far as you mentioned numbers, sheer numbers and whatnot. In 2 years, New York just passed a law where there'll be no more pets and dogs or cats sold from pet stores. And in fact, Illinois, I think, is maybe already implemented that. So they are going towards that direction.
You're right. Some states are making it so that you can't buy pets from pet stores. And I wish we would do that nationally for sure. But there are people who already have a pet and who are kind of in a position where they are scared that they can't afford this pet, or the pet needs medical care that they cannot give. What are your recommendations? Have you seen, I mean, you're in Connecticut, so I will say that you're probably surrounded by people who are more affluent. Not to say that there's no poverty there, but.
Oh, no, it's not like that. You're asking maybe the wrong person, because even coming out of the bodybuilding world, you have to eat 800 calories a day for 2 months to get your body fat down. I am very good at doing without. It's kind of like one of those superpowers, but I'm good working 100 hours a week to make sure it gets done right. And I'll do that as long as I have to. And again, I'm not talking about being inherent. I'm talking about making choices. So when you get these folks who, they're real issues, but just try to harken back to when you made that decision. And hopefully it was a good, solid one. You can't always test the winds of the future and know which way things are going to go. That's the world. That's life. But you really want to make sure when you're old, if God lets you get that far, that you know you made the right decisions. It's kind of good that you still have to work on things. And maybe these people have these problems. Maybe if they have the tenacity to say, hey, all right, this is the challenge, and I'm going to figure it out. And there's always a way, but sometimes there's not. So you want to make sure everybody gives themselves a chance to make sure they have a clear conscience later on,
Yes. Leave no stone unturned. There are a lot of rescues and shelters that are actually asking people, what do you need? You need food? I'll give you food, just so that pet doesn't end up back in the system. So I agree, like tenacity. If you are at the point where you have to give up your pet, you think you don't have any other options, keep searching for options, keep contacting rescues. If there's nothing in your area, find something nearby, keep doing your due diligence to try to keep your pet. Talk to your veterinarian, talk to your pet sitter, talk to whomever you can so that you don't have to bring your pet back.
I will ask your listeners to perhaps consider this, in the words of Joe Rogan. Try to be the hero of your own story, your own movie, and be a hero to that little animal. And then maybe you look at it differently. You tap in to the strength that everybody has. You talk about Stallone, he does all these things, but you see his mechanics, his anatomy, physiology, it's just, everybody has the same stuff to work with. It's really a matter of how you direct your brain chemistry. Choose to find a way to get your own personal power out. And I know it sounds kind of rah-rah, but listen, it can be done. It's not like, we're trying to float on air or do something that's impossible. And stay in that moment. It's important to make a decision that serves that moment. You know why I don't wear a watch? No, of course you don't, because you just met me. I don't wear a watch because the time is always now, right now. Talking to you right now might be, I'm not saying, hey, what's next? No, this might be my best thing I ever have right now. You gave me the honor. You don't know who the hell I am. I could have started doing crazy, nutty stuff in this room, or I still might.
That's why I don't do live.
Oh, I see. No, but really, when you've got that imperiled situation in those moments, your deeds now will, Gladiator, your deeds now will echo in eternity. And if you gentlemen find that you are dead, you're already in Elysium, which is their word for heaven. I'm kind of paraphrasing incorrectly, but these things are very important. Life is important. It's so very important. You could do a lot with it. I mean, you look at people out there, how beaten down they are. They're beaten down. Jack LaLanne used to say it. Do you know who that is? Jack LaLanne?
Who?
Oh, God. He had the original fitness show on TV. Very famous.
Okay.
In my arc. It's okay. But he very, very positive guy. But even back in the 50s, he'd say, I go walk in the street and look at the people. They're frowning and they're down and their shoulders are sagging. Why is this? You can choose to be happy. You can choose. I mean, you might have to be a little insane, especially if you're really facing some bad stuff. But, that could be good. You can convince yourself like a crazy person, And then when you're acting under the auspices of higher endorphins and enkephalins from happiness, I guarantee your stride will bring you to a better tomorrow. and your little pet will probably still be with you.
Oh yeah. They only want to stay with you. So if there's nothing else you take away from this conversation is, like you said, remember why you made the commitment to begin with. Like, what is it that you wanted, what you hoped for when you first adopted this pet, and do everything that you can, even supernatural, even using superpowers you never knew you had, to keep that pet and reach out for resources and help. And if anybody wants to support that isn't in that situation, the Fozzie Company is a great way to kind of connect with other people. They make great gifts. I love the design. I think it's such a great idea to merge popular like graphic tees with a really great mission to feed, shelter animals.
Can I mention the FozzieCompany.com?
Yes, of course. Go ahead.
That's all you need to know. You go there, you got all the blog stories, all videos, all that stuff. So
yes, I love your website. Actually, I've been on there a couple times. You have features of people wearing the stuff that it's just like you said, it's just really positive. So I really enjoyed.
We've already had 200 people send in pictures with their. I haven't done one ad or marketing. It's all organic so far. So as long as I could get up every day, we'll blow it up as big as we have to. Not want. It's really more of a need. And when it's a need, it has to happen. So it's a wonderful thing.
It is. So that's the FozzieCompany.com, right?
Yep.
So I want to propose a toast to you, Dr. Mike Dusa, for spending some time with me. Cheers. Thank you so much for being my guest and for sharing so much of yourself with me today. I also want to propose a toast to my executive producer, Mark Winter. Cheers. Here's to you and to our viewers and our audience on Pet Life Radio. Thank you so much for chatting with us and joining us for these important conversations. I try to make it light and airy, and today has been no different. I loved talking to Mike and learning about how he sees all of these issues that are really going to become only worse in 2023. So please make sure you're remembering your local shelter and rescue when you're donating and when you're purchasing things for friends and family, like at the Fozzie Company. So here's to a life covered in pet hair, because there's no better way to live. Cheers, guys. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
To learn more about Covered in Pet Hair, please visit coveredinpethair.com or petliferadio.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Let's Talk Pets every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.